Hey, crafters, welcome into Guys Craft 2. My name is John, and today we have a special guest with us. So, today we have Charles, which is Geek in Stitches. So, hey, Charles, thanks for being here today.
Hi. Well, thanks for inviting me.
So, it is Super Bowl Sunday, and yet we're still quilting, stitching, and getting things done, just like always. So I met Charles, I guess, a couple of months ago. Russ actually introduced us because he does some really cool things that I thought would be fun to share on the channel and have him on. Got to do with mine. I keep mine handy, just so you know, Charles. And we gifted many of these over the
Uh,
Christmas holiday. So
Those look
I have
familiar.
so I have my therapy chickens. So is that what you call them, right?
Emotional support chickens,
Emotional support chickens. Yeah, I knew it
but
wasn't
they
therapy.
are therapy chickens too.
They are. I tell you what, I actually keep one in the office, and it's amazing the conversation starters that, and it's a lot easier to fly with one of these than it is your dog or some of those other things.
Yes, I've had a few people have bought them that were headed to airplanes.
I can only imagine. So let's see who's in chat. Russ is here from Quilt Meets World. Hey, Russ, thanks for being here this afternoon. You are good friends with Russ as well, yes?
Oh, I have known him for a very long time. We we
Awesome.
have we haven't been physically in the same place in a long time, but I have known him for quite a long time.
No kidding. Tell you what, it's anymore. It seems like our world we don't physically see people like we used to anymore. Kind of crazy. Who else is on? Jackie's here. Hey, Jackie, thanks for being here. Balloonist is here. She's down in Tucson, Arizona, so she's a local for me. Who else? Jean's here. Welcome in, Jean. Charlotte, thanks for joining. Stephanie's here from Stephanie Stitches. She is a sweetheart and probably, hopefully, enjoying a little warmer weather up in the Cleveland area. Um, I know because you're all getting pretty nice weather down in Atlanta, yes?
It was 74 yesterday,
How crazy is that?
and we had snow 2 weeks before that.
Yeah. The thing I remember about living in Augusta and all that area is the weather could change drastically pretty quick. So that much hasn't changed. Is that true? All right. And who else is here? Charlotte's here. Thanks for being here. And hey, Teresa, thanks for joining tonight. So, Charles, you want to talk a little bit about your business, your store is called Geek and Stitches, correct?
Yeah, yeah. I started sewing, attempting to quilt about 12 years ago. That did not go so well. But from what I've heard, your first quilt is always the worst one.
It is one we remember, though. Yes.
Yes. So I'm actually sitting on one of my grandmother's quilts.
Oh
She
wow.
just turned 97, so she is the one that kind of inspired me to start sewing. She started giving me quilts like this is a double wedding ring quilt,
Hmm.
and she pieced that all by machine and quilted it by hand. So she was very old school.
Yeah, it's interesting. I some of the folks here because I live in a retirement community, and so some of the ladies here talk about how spoiled we are because I have a long arm to help me do the quilting, right? And they're like, yeah, you haven't had the old loom where you have to get it all, And I was like, oh no, because let me tell you, just wrestling the stupid thing in a machine is
Yes.
it's just so it's amazing what some of those women really went through back in the day to put anything out that looked half decent.
Yeah, there was we were in a small kind of antique jumble store yesterday outside of Atlanta, and I looked down and there was an old Singer table machine.
Hmm.
That was One of the old black ones.
Called a featherweight. I have one
Yeah.
from like 1952. We actually have an entire club that enjoys those featherweights and uses them. Now, I will admit mine needs to go to the shop, and I have a spa day get um, to get back in shape and ready. But it's funny, we have a whole group of probably about 25, 30 women. That's all they want to sew on. They like because it's so lightweight. They like that it does just a quick, straight stitch. But
Sorry, if I'm looking around, it's making sure my cat is not getting into something he's not supposed to.
they're kind of like having children, aren't they? They do tend to get into mischief at times.
Well, he did eat. So I mentioned I used to work at the University of Georgia, and I retired last year.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a really big veterinary school, and with a teaching hospital. And this cat managed to eat. I'm not sure if you know what a bobini is. A
Oh.
little rubber piece that sits on a spool of thread.
Oh.
$7,000 later, we had to have a endoscopy claw go in to remove it.
No way. Tell you what. And the sad thing is, medical costs, though, are much cheaper with humans than they are animals.
Yes, and I've often thought about getting insurance on him.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what they cost us. They're still our babies and our pets. And we'll do about anything for them, won't we?
Yeah. He's usually banned out of my sewing room, or as I call it, my sewing office man cave.
So tell us about the emotional support chickens. How did that get started? Where did that come from?
Well, I had, I don't know, I guess it was back about 2 years ago. I kind of found, well, almost everybody found their way into TikTok during quarantine.
Yeah.
And eventually I started following somebody who was doing some interesting things. And she was suddenly started making these chickens. And they were originally going to be pin cushions.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going to get out of this room real quick.
Okay.
But pin cushions did not really sell that well because pin cushions are awfully a niche kind of thing, especially at craft shows and festivals. And a friend of mine who she does all of the Athens events. In fact, this is one of her T-shirts. But she came up one day and pointed at him and said, "Those are emotional support chickens." And I rebranded them that next week.
So you've been doing quite a few. You do quite a few craft fairs and festivals.
Yeah, I have since I retired. I'm doing more events in the Atlanta area. In fact, I've just gotten back into the Inman Park Festival for, I think it's in May. They all kind of run together. I have to look at my calendar to remind me where I'm supposed to be.
So what do you take to the festival? So obviously you've got the chickens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are part, and you do the chickens in a lot of different ways.
I do two different sizes most of the time. I have regular chickens and big chickens.
Right.
I've actually just outside of that's the glitter fabric, I think, or the glitter felt on the crest and the
Yes.
wattle. And so, yeah, I do regular felt and the glitter to make them a little bit more fabulous. And I just added 3 more colors because I discovered that somewhere in the world there are chickens with blue crests and purple and gold. So,
Oh, really?
I've added those just this last week. So
So
infinite combinations of chickens.
the ones that I bought were, I think pretty much every one that I got was pride, but I know you do like cooking chickens and
Yeah, I have so many different groups of chickens that I had to come up with group names. So there's like culinary chickens, which are food. I have chickens in love, which are all hearts. Yeah, there's just all kinds animals. Um, and I started narrowing down to fabrics with punny names. And that's
Oh.
where most of my chickens are with puns.
So it's
Um,
meant to be just a fun time all the way around with chickens.
so this is the chicken nugget.
Oh, I like that.
So yeah, there are. I started buying nothing but pun fabrics at some point. This is the succulent chicken.
Oh, it's different. Yeah.
I've got chicken and waffles, and oh well, this was a. So I can't claim that I came up with the name for this chicken, but this is Ruth Bader Hinsberg.
Mm-mm-mm. So besides the chickens, what all are you working on? Because you now, do you do actual quilting?
Technically, most of my artwork could be considered quilting.
Hmm.
You could probably call them art quilts. Um, I do a combination of all fabric-based artwork. Like you can probably see the this landscape that's up above.
So is that all fabric?
Yes, that is all fabric,
Wow.
and everything I make is all hand cut. I don't like using, cry cuts or silhouettes, cameo. Uh, it just doesn't feel like art.
So when you did the branches to the trees and that, is that like one strip that you did, or is it smaller pieces?
So the the tree is kind of cut by hand, just sort of like the bulk of the tree. But then
Okay.
I add some more fabric to extend the limbs out.
Wow.
All of the little limbs, those are all thread painted.
Oh,
And
wow. So you're into the thread painting.
yeah, so there are most of the trees. I actually got curious one day and counted them. There could be upwards of 100 to 150 thread painted limbs in each piece.
So
I,
how long
I
does that take you?
I have gotten quite good. I can usually stitch out all of the limbs in about an hour. I
Mhm.
used to be kind of really picky, but
Yeah.
when you're doing that type of work, you may think there's a mistake somewhere, but you're never going to see it. Um, we're always much more critical about our own work than the people who look at it.
Oh, yeah. So for us that aren't into the thread painting but have heard about it, tell us a little bit about what that technique looks like.
So most of what I do, I lower the tension on my sewing machine. It's not really free motion, but the tension on the machine is just lowered so you can move the piece. So I'm literally moving the entire piece around, sort of stitching over and over the where the limbs are going to be,
Hmm.
and it kind of builds up a layer. And so that's just repeated all around the tree in different directions until it becomes a tree.
And you said you're getting that done now in about an hour.
Most of them. I used to make much smaller, simpler landscapes, but
Hmm.
I've kind of been adding much more complexity this last year and a half. Um, there are more limbs, and I'm making smaller single limbs, and just really trying to fill the tree out. I've got no actual method. I just kind of let it go. I call it embracing the chaos.
Now, when you start a design like that, do you have an end in mind, or does it kind of develop as you're going through?
It just develops.
Okay.
I don't know what I will pick a background fabric, and then I will go through my browns, and I'll find a brown that looks like a good tree color for that background. And then I will pick, different colors of fabric to add to the tree. And I don't know what I'm going to be putting on it until I start comparing colors to what's on the tree and what's around the tree. I don't even know. You may have possibly have noticed the yarn, and actually I can pull one of these. I just finished 3 more this week. So there's a yarn layer, which is kind of the ground layer.
Yeah.
And I never know what color yarn I'm going to put on there until I am digging through the yarn to see what looks good. Which, for an IT guy to let go that far, that is saying quite a lot.
And now, with the yarn, are you sewing that, or how?
It is kind of bunched and stitched down across the line. It separates the green from the color of the top.
Yep.
So it's just kind of bunched together. I use a what's it called? A purple thing. I don't know if you've ever seen those. It's just basically a plastic stick.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it's just, I just kind of bunch it and stitch it into place all across the edge.
So it really gives a 3D effect then.
Yes. Yeah. And the different color, I love the wispy yarn, and I don't even know what this is called because I'm not really a yarn person. And even though I have so much yarn right now, I can't believe how much yarn I have.
That is so crazy. Now, that's still a piece in progress, right?
This one is finished.
Okay, so what do you have? What animals? You've got butterflies and a fox?
Yeah, so that's another thing. I don't know what I'm going to be adding to it until I start digging through my animals. So like the fox, that is just a piece of fabric that I guess you could say it was fussy cut out of the fabric. Things like,
who told me about fussy cut? That was Russ.
oh,
he likes to use that term fussy cut. Finally told me what it was. So
yeah, you just get really, really picky about which piece of fabric you want to cut from the overall fabric.
But those are what you're taking like to the craft fairs and the craft shows.
Oh yes, I had a couple, 3 or 4 left over from last year, but I have got so many. I'm already scheduling multiple 2-day events this year, so I like to have a good number of them, or have some of them partially finished, so that if I have to hurry, I don't have to hurry as much.
So when you talk about Geek and Stitches, obviously you've got a lot of LGBT stuff. You have some pride stuff. This is really interesting because you've got the animals.
Yes.
Are there certain themes that you go after?
Well, so the one I showed first, this one I actually call. I've only made 3 of these so far, but I call these Rainbow Hills because the tree is inset in a 6-color rainbow.
Oh wow! Okay.
But then even further, the flowers are stitched in 6-color rainbow. And the fabric that is stitched into the tree, which is kind of hard to see here, but that is 6 limbs with 6-color rainbows. So there are 3 different rainbows embedded in this piece.
Wow. And it's almost like an applique on top of batting and material, right? Because
yes,
you almost want to think that it's got a canvas behind it, but it doesn't.
Well, technically. So I buy 7-ounce canvas.
So it does have a canvas.
Yes. So there are. I always wanted to have it count. So this particular piece has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 layers of material, because there's a layer of batting, and then there's a backing, but there's also stabilizer. because a lot of these processes, you have to have a lot of stabilizer to get things to really sew into the fabric, especially the canopy. There's a yellow canopy in this one, and that is a loose, low tension zigzag stitch, and it is kind of free motion stitched, and so the two layers of interfacing are really needed for that to get it to really stitch into it. And then there's the other canvas, which is stretched around. So I build all the frames for everything too. And so because I build the frames, I'm never concerned about the size of a piece because I cut all the wood to fit.
I was going to say, so you're not constrained by what I can find at Michael's, because you're going to make the size you need once you're done with the project.
It is a wonderful feeling not to have to be stressed out. Like, say you're making a bed quilt, that bed quilt has got to be, especially if you're going to put it in a show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, everything I make, I try not to make things too big, but I also like to make some large pieces. But I also make some smaller pieces that are a little more accessible.
Charlotte says, laugh out loud, chickens galore. Sally says, happy Super Bowl Sunday, Sally. Thanks for being here. Sally's my good friend up in California.
So I did bring a stack in just to sit on my table.
Oh, perfect. Good. See, you remind me of Peace and Love, right? So seeing the what I call a hippie chicken right there in the front, right, with the almost looks like the tie-dye.
Oh, this one right here?
Yeah.
Oh, so that is actually a somewhat special chicken. I guess most people may have heard of spoonflower.
Mm-hmm.
So I have taken some of my artwork and I have turned into fabric.
Oh, wow.
Chicken is from a piece of artwork.
So how did an artist ever survive being a nerd geek in IT?
So I had no creative skills as a child at all. Nothing.
So what got you started in this?
Well, I am always doing, I guess it's my IT background. I'm always doing research.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for things that interest me. So a lot of the basis of my stuff came out of a class that I took through AQS, their online class system, the American Quilters.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Society.
I can never remember the lady's name. It's like I always have to look her up. It's like Pasquani. She's a real well-known quilter, and she did a class. Katie Pasquani Massoist.
Oh, wow. Now, how would you ever forget that name, Charles?
Yeah. So she has a class in the AQS system on these decorative landscapes, but that I have taken them so much further than her class even touched. I'm adding much more embellishments to things. I don't know if you noticed, but there are stars on this particular one.
Oh, yeah, I see them now.
So
and again, those are sewn on top, right?
Yes. And so
again,
I'm punching through those 3 and 4 layers with a needle. Sometimes I have to use a thimble, but most of the time I can work it through. But so I paint these stars with an iridescent gold, and then I go back and I've started painting them with a layer of glow-in-the-dark acrylic paint.
No way.
And then another layer of varnish to help protect the color on the stars. So they do somewhat glow in the dark.
So you do, and those stars being on top like that,
Mhm.
again, gives it that dimension, right? It makes them look
Yes.
dimensional. It's
Yeah, I'm really amazed at every additional thing I've done. It raises it up off the surface a little bit more. I'm easily amazed. I'll say that.
Now, have you looked into teaching any of the techniques in that, or are you just
Uh,
enjoying doing this for you right now?
well, my quilt guild has been trying to corner me for a few years to do a class. But when I retired back in May of last year, I suddenly realized that I didn't want to do anything on anyone else's schedules.
Yep.
So I've kind of been focusing on just improving and learning and just making more cool things.
Well, and I mean, of course, you're coming up on a year now, but still, it's once you've punched that clock for so many years and that, you kind of want to find your own way, and you
Yes.
just need to figure out that adjustment, I would think. I
Now
don't know yet, Charles. I'm hoping to find out one day.
I have been busy enough that I haven't had time to think about not being at work. So that is something nice.
Yeah, because I think some people do worry that when they retire, it's like, well, what am I going to do all day?
So, so I started building this about 6 years ago. So I just renewed my license for the 6th year. So I built this with the intentions of having something to do when I did retire, but I saw it as some nebulous way in the future date. And so I did not expect to retire last year. And then suddenly I was retiring.
I think the pandemic, though, helped us make a lot of different life decisions and
Yeah.
start rethinking things.
Yeah. You kind of figure out what's important.
Does make all the difference. Sorry, I'm trimming threads while we talk.
Oh, no. That's okay. I could
Um,
be pitching chickens while I'm sitting here.
Jeannie's here tonight. Hey, welcome in. Jean says hippie chicken. Um, Charlotte says spoonflower is great. And she also says, Charles, have you used ink tints pencils?
I don't have one of those pieces here, but yes, I have. Um, if if you could give me a minute, I can run downstairs and bring up a much larger piece, the largest thing I've ever made.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome.
Okay, I'm going to leave my earbuds here so you don't hear me downstairs.
No, that's fine. I'll chat right while you're gone. So, hey, crafters, thanks for being here tonight. Charles, I did post his website. I will post it again for you. He does Geek and Stitches. Russ actually introduced us a couple of months ago. And so I thought it would be fun to have on because he does such unique and different things to kind of see and hear what someone else is doing. I am still working on trying to get all the stitches out of all the applique stuff that I did. I actually bought a new pattern from EMB Library over the weekend that I started stitching, and it's roosters of all stupid things. Anyways, they're having a chicken sale on EMB Library, and now I'm trying to figure out how to convert in Brilliant software their DST files into SVG files so then I can cut the appliques out on my Cricut so I don't have to stand there and do those by hand. So that's what I was working on this afternoon. And then I don't know if I told you all, but here in the community, we actually have an agricultural club. And so, yes, I joined the agricultural club. I bought 3 plots in the ag club, and we have planted yesterday we planted 8 tomato plants. Today he went back and planted 7 more. So we have 15 tomato plants. 6 of those, though, are cherry tomatoes. So it's not like they're all huge tomatoes, but we've got tomatoes planted. We're working on asparagus, working on broccoli. I already have yellow cauliflower in the ground. I already have tons of lettuce in the ground. onions, carrots are already in the ground, and then we bought a nice selection of fresh fresh herbs. So we're going to plant those actually here at the house, so I don't have to drive down the street to do that. But so we spent a lot of time yesterday just doing really kind of having fun at the garden club and getting the garden going. Because here, we're in the low 80s, 70s. So right now is prime season for us to plant. All right. Hey,
Oh,
Charles, you're back. All
yeah.
right. So
You may remind me, I have got to put together a small standalone greenhouse that my partner bought me last Christmas.
see,
I still have not put it together, and here we are in March.
I am just tired of nasty vegetables. You know what I mean? I'm just ready for a tomato to actually taste like a tomato when I grew up. I mean,
I wish we could garden, but we have got so many deer in the neighborhood
mm.
that it is impossible to garden without having to build a fence.
Well, and that's what's neat about the place we have. So they've actually set out plots for us. And
Wow.
it's $10 a year for me to belong, but then you buy your plot. I bought 3, but mine are completely fenced in from top
Wow.
to bottom, all with chicken wire and a gate and all that. So it keeps all the bunnies out, the coyotes out, and all the birds out. So I was fortunate because that was all done. So somebody else did that 20 years ago, and I'm taking advantage.
Yeah.
All right. So what you got in front? Now,
Oh,
again, that's all quilting,
so
all sewing
this
fabric.
is all acrylic painted canvas. So like I say, I work with canvases too.
Okay.
There's a method, and this is also part of Katie, uh, whatever her name was. I still can't remember it. You can use a thinning agent to thin the paint. So I paint really, really large canvases that I can cut pieces from, and then everything is zigzag stitched together and then quilted in some way. But
Right.
someone had mentioned the ink tints.
Yes.
So the turtle and the fish and the coral, those are all watercolor painted using the ink tints pencils with a combination of fabric medium. But then
I mean, that's amazing. And the colors, I mean, you've got the different blues and greens and that in there, but then when you look at that turtle and just the green and yellow, or you look at the starfish, I mean, like those colors just really pop. But
and so they're also all of the embroidery was hand stitched too, using embroidery floss.
oh, you do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, I I don't know. As I was working with it, I just sort of it just all made sense to do that. And I had to use a thimble for that because punching through that fabric medium and the watercolor, that was it put a few little holes in my fingers.
But it did. Yeah, that's always been my fear. But now, are these done in blocks?
So you'd mentioned I think shoving pieces through a sewing machine.
Right.
So believe it or not, but I pieced this thing together through my domestic. I At the time I had a Juki 400 HZL. It
Yep.
has since passed away, but yeah, I was having to curl this up. It's thick material because it's painted canvases. Um, it was quite a chore. I wasn't sure I was going to really be able to pull it off. Um, but the you can probably see there's sections. So it's like
Yeah.
I put the two canvases together and I cut the wavy line, and I just hoped I could stitch it together and it would fit.
Well, that's what made me wonder because, right, they're not perfect square blocks or rectangles. There's a
Yeah.
lot of movement there, and that's why I was wondering, did you do it a block at a time? But it's that movement too that makes it look it really gives that perception of underwater.
Yeah, yeah. I call it. Oh gosh, the name is escaping me, but I think it's on the back. Tropically submerged. That's what I called it.
Okay.
And I actually had this in our 2019 quilt show. Of course, nobody really understood what it was because nobody is making stuff like this.
Yeah. So you were in a category all by yourself.
Well, it was considered an art quilt, so I was in the art quilt category.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
But our poor judge, she just did not know what to say about it.
Yeah, I still have the battle locally with some of the quilters that are, the quilt police still don't believe that if you don't do your binding by hand, then it doesn't
Oh,
qualify, it doesn't count. And I thought, you know,
yes.
I have 9 machines. I spent way too much money on machines that I'm not doing hand binding.
Eh, so I that kind of touched on one of my favorite sayings. Is the first thing I learned as I was learning how to make all this stuff is there are no rules. Somebody made every rule up. So I go into everything with as little preconceptions as I can think of because I don't want to be boxed into a corner with anything.
Well, and that is the thing. I mean, because everything you're doing is really breaking boundaries, right? I mean,
Yeah,
you're breaking every rule that people have set and tried to put
yeah.
in place over the last 30 years.
I know my the Quilt Guild members they don't like to hear stuff like that. They're all set in traditional ways of every single block there possibly can be.
But I think crafting in general has evolved so much, right? I mean, so
Oh yeah.
my problem is I have a Cricut. I enjoy my Cricut. I have a 10 needle embroidery machine.
Hmm.
Then these appliques that I ran, they're just too difficult to run in the 10 needle because I can
Uh,
run them on my other one just as fast. So I have a Viking that I run on, but I
hmm.
only stitch, straight stitch and do stuff on my Jukies.
Uh,
I mean, and then I have a sublimation printer. Uh,
oh
we just bought a laser cutter, laser engraver, so I have that in the
wow.
garage. And then we have 2 3D printers. So, it's like
You've
when
got
I
every medium possible.
yeah, I mean, like when I say I enjoy crafting, I really do, and I like to do a lot of different things. But you're taking really kind of several mediums and putting them
Hmm.
together, right? I mean, it's
Well, well, it's um, like this one right here. So this is all acrylic painted canvases. Some of it is I've started blending colors for the backgrounds. So there's
hmm
greens and blues, but there's also iridescence mixed in with it too. And some things are kind of hard to see on the camera, which is the same thing with my online stuff is that people look at it and you can't quite see everything unless you're seeing it in person.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so it's like I pulled some of these out. So all of my shapes are cut from strips of canvas that have been sewn together.
Wow.
So these, you can see it on the back better. And they're just it's all a wide zigzag stitch. And so that's the wonderful thing about canvases. There are no seam allowances.
That would have worked so much better for me a couple of years ago. I never realized that a quarter inch makes a difference, but lordy, lordy, I've learned my lesson about a quarter inch.
Yeah, that was actually that first quilt I mentioned. That was part of what really messed that whole quilt up. Is I got the understanding of seam allowance wrong.
Yeah, I realized halfway through cutting fabric one time that obviously no one ever taught me to read a ruler.
Oh yeah.
And so I cut half my blocks 3.5 inches, but then I
Oh
cut
yeah.
some 3 1/4 inch. And it was like, no wonder I'm having trouble. I can't
Yeah,
figure out even how to read the rule. It's
I
just
I have done that. I've missed calculated the total width I would need of a canvas of like a strip of uh, of canvas, or even really it. So I make rainbows out of fabric too. So I do actually sew fabric, and so this is just all rainbow fruits and veggies is what
I
I
was gonna say,
call
but
it.
how cool is that you get your pride, you get the rainbow, but yet it's all fruits and vegetables.
And so these will turn into eventually. I also do microwave safe bowl holders,
Yep.
so they can go into the microwave and then lifted back out. So I make a version of that with my rainbow. So I try to have some rainbow themed something in everything I make, from chickens to bowl holders to art. Uh, to let's see, what else do I have? Oh, so I do rope bowls too, and so this is a rainbow themed bowl.
I like that. I took a class and we did rope bowls. I learned very quick that my Bernina did not like
Uh,
rope bowls, and so I ended up buying an old cheap mechanical Janome. And all that stupid thing knows is that the needle goes up and down, right?
yeah,
And it's amazing to me how it sews rope bowls because it's like,
uh,
okay, see, it's mechanical. It doesn't have all the digital
oh
stuff
yeah, yeah, yeah.
going.
There's nothing electronic is gonna fritz.
Yeah. And so I've done a few, but I will admit that my technique needs a lot of work. I have not done anything as intricate as doing a lot of bowls and then adding just the color randomly like you did. I really like the way that
I
turned out.
I am I just I guess it was the end of last year. I just bought my second spool of 1,000 foot rope. So I'll be making some rope bowls here pretty soon.
The one thing I did, Bernina actually had it on their website. If you sign up, they send you a random pattern once a month, and that. And I think it was
Okay.
last year, they actually sent where you took the rope and you just made ovals, and you just finished making basically an oval mat about
Oh
yay big,
yes.
and then you cut it dead center, and then so you end up with two, and you put two big eyes and a nose on it, and you end up with ghost. Um,
Oh yeah.
and I was like, really like it, and it's so funny. So I ended up playing with it, made those. So I always set them out to Halloween parties and that, and everybody's like, I've never seen anything like that. And I thought, well, you wouldn't because somebody had to make this stupid thing. And then I
Yeah.
only painted eyes and that on one side. So I still like having them as, for hot pots and all that.
Oh
So I'll set
yes.
them out and put the nose and eyes down so that, then it's just, and people will pick it up and go, but why does it have eyes? I'm
Yeah.
like, it's Christmas time. You're not supposed to look at that side. Just look at
Yeah,
the
yeah,
other.
yeah. I try not to make seasonal stuff. I don't know. I've never had much luck with moving seasonal stuff, but I will occasionally make something at home. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, Ingrid, welcome in. Thanks for being here. Um, Russ says it's all about the emotional support chickens.
Yeah. They're just chilling over here on the table.
Oh, we like that. And Ingrid says stunning. It's absolutely beautiful. She was talking about your canvas, the underwater world.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I wish I could see the chat. Every time I've looked, it. Oh, actually, there is. I see it. Uh,
Oh, so maybe
yes.
once we went live, it started scrolling better for you.
Well, it's still it overlays over the camera. I guess
Okay.
with the iPad, it can't do everything simultaneously as good as Zoom can,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I
But
I don't miss Zoom at all.
I don't, and StreamYard's much, much cheaper. It's like free. Charlotte says she loves the ink tints pencils and that your work is beautiful.
Oh yeah, I really want to get back to that. I'm doing so many things. I It takes me a while to circle back around. I do have some smaller pieces I've done with those sea turtles. I've made standalone sea turtles, like about 16 by 18 inches, something like that.
Oh, no kidding.
Um, yeah, the sea turtles kind of, like I said, I mentioned to you earlier that my partner, we've been going to Charleston, South Carolina, for like the last 24 years. So sea turtles have kind of seeped into my skull.
They do, don't they? I bought one. So I take my daughter and her family. We go to Myrtle Beach every year. And I think this will be the fifth year we've done it. So, which was really cool, right? Because my daughter, she grew up part of the time in South Carolina. When
Mhm.
she had my first grandchild's when I moved from Virginia to Arizona. But like I was fortunate. I was the first one to get to take the grandkids to the beach. I was the first
Yeah.
one to put them in the ocean. So even though I'm not there year round, there are some first things I got to do. But last year at Myrtle Beach, I went to a quilt store there and absolutely loved it. And one of the things I bought was this big sea turtle
Yeah.
uh, quilt kit. It's still sitting in the shelf, but
Yeah.
it was really cool.
It's always dangerous to go into a quilt show when you're on a vacation.
Yeah, the problem was I not only went to the quilt store, we ended up going to two different outlets. And one of the things I've always loved, I played golf when I lived in South Carolina. I've always loved Greg Norman clothing. And so Greg Norman with the shark. And so he's got an outlet store. I ended up having to go to UPS to ship my stuff home. And the guy,
Otherwise, you're carrying everything home.
yeah, and it was like it was gonna be too much. It was too heavy. And the guy goes, this is gonna be like $120. And I was like, well, at this point, dude, it doesn't matter. So anything I thought I may have saved. And then when he gets done, it's like $158. And he goes, well, we still had to charge you for the boxing and the packing and all that. I was like, just give me a final bill and let me leave. I was like, so I'm not planning to do that this year.
Well, now that I'm retired, I'm not spending money on myself anymore.
Tell you what, you do learn that.
I get to make things with my business money, and I don't have to keep it.
It does make it more fun. Sally says, seems like we lost you. Maybe it's on my end. It must be on Sally's end. Um, yeah, Russ says it's on your end, Sally. Hate that for you, Sally. Katrina says, good evening, everyone. I'm finally back home. Welcome back home, Miss Katrina. It has been a crazy time. So I'm nosy. You have one pillow, one over your shoulder, because I'm a gnome
Oh,
freak.
which
Is that a gnome behind you on the blue?
uh oh, you mean this or
Yeah.
that's actually that's the Star Trek insignia. That's the rainbow.
Yes, it's
Uh,
look at you.
yeah, so this is like the Vulcan salute. These are all acrylic painted canvases with some
Wow.
iridescent gold splatter paint.
Man.
And so
Charles,
the
you just like to do everything.
so the part I guess I didn't mention is so there are no seam allowances for any of the canvases. So
Right.
what I have to do is cut the shape out of the background, and then the object is inset into into the hole that was cut, and then it's zigzag stitched to the background. So it's a little counterintuitive. It's not like fabric quilting, or it's not applique. It's all a flat
Wow.
design.
How crazy is that? So you've got a lot to pack up when you go to the craft shows.
I have gotten surprisingly good. It is like a complicated game of Tetris. Uh, I've since switched to those black and yellow Costco containers.
Yep.
I don't know if you've seen those. Those I used to have some other larger containers, and I think everything gets stacked from biggest to smallest, and then some pieces are set down inside of other pieces,
Yeah.
but it has to all be done in such a way that it's not pressing shapes into the canvas, because unlike, well, even fabric can stretch, but I've had one or two pieces over the years that kind of got it in boxed indentions in the canvas, where one piece was pressing down on another piece. But I can pack them pretty good. I usually I'll bring one of those containers with my fabric things. The chickens just get thrown into. I got a free bag from the High Museum of Art when we were members last year, and it's a very sturdy bag. So I just have one big bag full of chickens. I don't
Uh,
bother to box them up because they're about 4 ounces each.
yeah.
So I may, to a 2-day event, I may bring 175 chickens. That adds up fast.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny because, so I ordered several, right, over Christmas,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I ended up sending them to like the grandkids, sent one to my
Uh,
daughter and that. And my daughter, she's mentioned several times, I hate that you live in Arizona. I hate
uh,
now that I wish I'd learned to do more crafting. I wish now that you're into sewing, you could, be teaching me more. And then she calls me after Christmas and she goes, only you would find an emotional support chicken.
so I don't think we've mentioned. So they also come with adoption cards,
They
and
do. That's what's the neatest thing.
so I had one spare one as I was. Well, where's the camera at? So
There
it's
you are.
just basically a funny, cute little saying on how to take care of the chicken and what the chicken will do for you. So I print, sign, and laminate all of them. So the adoption card makes it an official adoption. Is the
Well,
joke?
but at the end of the day, if you remember back in the day, right? Cabbage Patch was the big thing. That's one of the things. To me, it was so funny when I opened the box and these cards were
Oh,
attached. It was like
yes, yeah,
it just completed the gift, though, right? I
yeah,
mean, because it explains what the chicken is and why you should be happy you're getting this emotional support chicken and how
yeah.
important it is.
So it's funny that idea did not come to me. It was last Christmas. No, 2 Christmases ago. I do an event with a local lady. She has a little kids store, art store where she does things with like summer camp type stuff.
Okay.
And I was talking to somebody that came in and was, people will run in and they'll just sort of scream chickens. And we just got to talking, and I don't know, something they said and something I said, and the next thing I know is this, you know what? These chickens need adoption cards. And so that's the only way the adoption cards even exist. Just a
No.
conversation with someone.
No, it was so perfect for me to be able to just drop them in bags, right, and send them to Virginia and, different ones for them to be able to open and just, they knew right away, right, what it was about. And, um,
Yeah, I did not expect to feel the emotionality that I get from some people who come up, because they will stand there and I always tell people, you find the chicken that speaks to you most. And they will sit there and they'll say, oh, she might like this one. Oh, but she likes coffee. And there's one with coffee beans. Yeah. And it's just, I didn't expect to enjoy children running up and screaming chickens. It's like we don't have kids, we're not going to have kids. So it's like, my craft booth is the kids I wind up connecting with.
just too funny. So, what are some of the shows? What do you have coming up next?
Oh, so one really big one. So I've been in my quilt guild for 12 years. I almost did not renew this year, but I went ahead and did it. We have a quilt show every 2 years,
Okay.
right near Athens in a little town called Watkinsville at their civics. They have a little civic center. So a couple of vendors dropped out, and through a conversation with someone said, "Well, you should just come be a vendor." And so I'm going to be a vendor at our quilt show at the end of February, the crossover, the 28th through the March 2nd, I think. It's like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I'm looking forward to that. I've brought things to show and tell over the years, but they have not. I don't think anyone's really seen some of the stuff I've progressed with in the last year. Yeah, because we had no meetings during COVID.
Right, right.
We had some Zoom meetings, and show and tell is so hard to do through Zoom.
Definitely not the same. I mean, because you do some beautiful things, and um,
Well, thank
I
you.
appreciate you showing those this afternoon. But it it doesn't do justice to seeing them in person.
Yeah, I take a bazillion photos, and it's like none of the photos really convey, yeah, all of it.
No, no. So talk about so you've got a website that you keep active as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, and then speaking of events, I've got I always have my event schedule on both my website and my online store.
Okay.
Um, I try to keep everything, the majority of my stuff in the online store because that's a whole other separate beast. It's kind of like I would like to be able to do more video, but it's like I can either do videos or I can make stuff. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. It's a hard balance, right? I mean, at one point I had an Etsy store that was going, but trying to do a YouTube channel, trying to do,
Yeah.
my own crafting, trying to do things for the house. Then I do have other interests, right? So,
It's a lot of cat
gardening.
herding.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, playing pickleball. I just started taking pickleball lessons. It's like, just, next weekend I won't be on. So, you YouTube regulars, we'll figure out next Sunday. Next Sunday, I'm actually going to be in Fort Lauderdale. And by this time, next Sunday, I will be recovering from a half marathon. So,
No.
just I get talked into way too many things. One of the things that's on my list is to do a half marathon in every state, and I have done 17 states so far.
Wow.
We will slowly get
I
there.
had intentions to do more hiking through our local state botanical gardens. That has not surfaced yet.
Just too crazy. But Charles, I so appreciate you being on this afternoon with us. I have had the best time learning about you and what's going on.
For my first time, it has been quite fun.
I want to put, so in the chat is Charles's site. So it is Geek and Stitches. And so feel free to go out and visit him. Do you have a YouTube channel at this point? I know you post a few
I
videos.
do. I have dabbled in all of the social medias. I have a TikTok even. I haven't posted much in a while. I do have maybe like 10 or 12 or 15 behind the scenes work on some of the landscapes, including I have some videos on the thread painting and some of the other parts. I think I may have some videos on stitching the acrylic canvases.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I guess I'm about to become really busy. So I guess if I'm going to do more videos, it's going to have to be in March before spring comes.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I remember living the craft life. We used to do craft fairs when I lived in Virginia, and we knew our craft seasons. We, in fact, knew it was funny. We went back to the same events for several years, and
Yeah.
we always had the same booth. We had some of the same neighbors. I mean, it's just you all learn that circuit together, and
Yeah, you wind up finding a community.
Yep.
And that's another thing I didn't expect to find.
Yep. Yep. unfortunately, we've tried to do them here in Arizona, and it's just not the same. It's not crafting out here is a lot different than the East Coast.
Mm.
Well, Charles, we're at the top of the hour. I appreciate you being here. I put
Thank you.
your links in there. I wish you the best successes moving forward. And
Thank you. It's been fun.
And we will certainly connect again.
Okay.
As always, guys,
See ya.
until next time, happy crafting.